Joining me right now on the Boardwalk Honda hotline, you know him well. He is our own MMA Insider. You can follow him on Twitter at Talk MMA. My man Dizz, all over the place, keeping up with all the news in the UFC and MMA world. My friend, how you doing on this Saturday?
Hey, thanks for that introduction. 97.3 ESPN, Jersey, the home of the Philadelphia Eagles, the champs. The champs are here.
This is true, and then you stole our offensive coordinator to make him the head coach.
It is true. Actually, we really enjoy Frank Reich over here in Indianapolis, man. It was nice to actually have a press conference where the coach actually sounded like a coach. It was amazing.
Oh, you mean he put together coherent sentences?
Oh, he didn't just put together coherent sentences, but he actually made the city of Indianapolis feel like we had a strategy for the following season. So, at least he doesn't have a cancer card to play for 4 years. Tug at the strings of Jim Irsay. So,
well, look, it's all good because we got the Eagle fans got the Super Bowl ring, and then the Colt fans get a real head coach. So it's all everybody wins in the end, right?
Exactly. And you guys have one of the biggest sports fanatics, Eagles sports fanatics in the city there. The guy, what's his name? Sean?
Oh, there's a ton of them all over the place. I mean, I feel like
he's the guy with the pink Corvette who called out Tom Brady.
Yeah, well, he's one of the latest people to show up on Instagram and Twitter and all those. You know how it is. Now that everyone's got social media, everyone's a celebrity.
I like that guy. I like him a lot.
All right, let's get into some of the MMA and UFC. Of course, UFC 226 is tonight. Before we get into Miocic and Cormier, I want to hit on some of the news items that you've been tracking this week. First of all, what is the latest with McGregor? I know we expect him to fight Khabib. What is the latest on that front?
Okay, so, and this is, obviously this is just a rumor at the moment, but the rumor going around the rumor mill is that Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov had agreed last month on an October event in Las Vegas. Looks like we're talking UFC. It looks like we're talking UFC 229 in Las Vegas. Currently, when you check this card out, I mean, it doesn't look there's anything there so far. I mean, he's not going to be fighting in New York, that's for sure. Especially with being in hot water with the commission and the lawsuit and everything. Conor McGregor, Khabib Nurmagomedov, that's the fight that has needed to happen for a long time. There's heat there. There's especially more heat now, especially including with the bus incident. Khabib Nurmagomedov had even said, hey, listen, no UFC, no commission. You tell me anytime, any place. I remember posting that video. He meant it too. So I'm not really. That's a fight that I think everybody wants to see. I don't think that there's a soul out there who follows the sport doesn't want to see that fight. I think it's a fight that should have happened a long time ago. But either Tony Ferguson got hurt or Khabib, finger quotes, got hurt or had kidney problems.
Right.
And so here we are. I mean, now Tony Ferguson's off to the side. Khabib Nurmagomedov is the somewhat champ, beating Ally Quinta. I mean, if that gets you a title, then you feel good about it, then okay.
Right, exactly.
I mean, whatever Pierce me to, it's your plate.
How much truth do you think there is to Tyron Woodley's accusations that McGregor has already spent all of his $100 million that he gained from the Mayweather fight?
What does Tyron Woodley know about what's in Conor McGregor's wallet? Tyron's a very salty individual. I mean, he's a guy who's accused his company of being racist to get attention. We're talking Tyron Woodley's already calling himself the greatest welterweight of all, just one fight away from being the greatest welterweight of all time. I mean, who's Tyron Woodley anyways? I mean, he's just trying to piggyback off of Conor McGregor, and that's not uncommon. I mean, we've got Colby Covington, who's out there also. He's trying to piggyback off of that same blueprint that Conor's used. I mean, who's Tyron Woodley? I mean, yeah, welterweight champ of the UFC, great, but don't start calling yourself anything. Don't start talking until you go on a George St. Pierre type of run.
Just wanted to put some clarity out there. Just wanted to, clear the air. Make sure that people knew what's true and what's not. That's all.
He's not broke.
Gotta give the people the information.
He's not broke. Conor McGregor's not broke, or else why would you offer Michael Chiesa $400,000? To settle a case for a little scratch above the eye. I mean, come on, give me a break. He's not broke. The dude's got money, and I guarantee you he's got somebody who's helped him invest that money as well. I mean, he's got a clothing line that's been coming out. He's got a alcohol line, an Irish whiskey line. I mean, come on. Let's get real here. Conor McGregor's not broke.
What's the latest situation with Brock Lesnar? Is he gonna make take another stab at MMA, or is that all a bunch of hill of beans?
He's not done with MMA. Let's just put it this way: you have a 6'3", 6'4", 280-pound monster who walks into your office and says, "This is what I want to do." Are you going to tell him no? I'm not. I'm not going to tell Brock Lesnar he can't fight in MMA. I mean, for Pete's sake, USADA granted a 1-month waiver. They granted him his waiver for the 6 weeks. You have to be in the USADA test pool for 6 months. They granted him 30 days and said, "Hey, yeah, we'll let you sign a waiver since you've been under the WWE's testing policy."
Right.
And it's very possible that they could do that again. So all the WWE had to do was just coordinate their test results with USADA, maybe pass a couple samples over. I don't know how they do theirs, but maybe pass a couple of samples through biological passport testing and say, "Hey, look, so here's a sample from that date. Came back negative for everything, keep going." So the only problem is that USADA's testing is far more strict than sometimes I think a little too strict. I mean, how John Jones comes up testing for Turinabol in a very slight trace, which could have been anything slipped in a drink or something. I mean, it's a very strict testing organization. So We'll have to see. But rumor mill once again was that Brock Lesnar could potentially be in Las Vegas tonight at the T-Mobile Arena to step into the octagon to challenge the winner of Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier tonight, which that's gonna be a great fight tonight.
Let's get to that fight. Look, I talked to Miocic a couple days ago. He seemed very, you know how Stipe is. He's not the kind of guy to act like he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But I know, the whole world knows that there's a reason why this guy is the baddest man on the planet. He is just taking down dudes left and right. And you and I were talking about off the air. The last time Stipe Miocic lost a fight, Anthony Pettis was the lightweight champion. I mean, it's so long ago. That was back in December of 2014. This guy's been on such a dominant run.
Yeah, I mean, how can you argue with him so far? I mean, you look at the list of champions. When you look at the list of champions, Cain Velasquez held the title for 800 days, but he wasn't as active.
Oh, he wasn't even healthy half the time.
Yeah, he was injured most of the time. He wasn't as active. I mean, last time Stipe Miocic lost, like we said, Anthony Pettis was the lightweight champion, and that's been many moons ago. So he has, he's put together quite the streak. He's on top of his game right now. And right now, I mean, even now, Daniel Cormier weighed in at 246 pounds yesterday. That is 40 extra pounds that he is carrying with him,
slowing him down
into this fight, slowing him down against a guy who consistently weighs 243 pounds and used to carrying the weight around, and he's more evenly proportioned.
Right.
I mean, his muscle mass, he's always training at that weight. So, yeah, I think the only thing that Daniel Cormier has going for him right now is he's an Olympic caliber wrestler. He's tossed around Josh Barnett, who was a who was a very solid catch wrestler for the longest time, former UFC champion, undefeated at heavyweight. Daniel Cormier is undefeated at heavyweight. The only thing that I can just really see going in his favor, but Stipe Miocic is not a slouch when it comes to wrestling. He is a wrestler. But now we're talking about a wrestler who's got stand-up. And, he's knocked out Junior Dos Santos. He's knocked out Alistair Overeem, of course, who hasn't. Knocked out Fabricio Verdum. Knocked out Andre Arlovski. Knocked out Mark Hunt, which is difficult. Knocked out Fabio Maldonado, which even, there's the guys in the light heavyweight division that couldn't do that.
Right.
So, we're talking a handful of knockouts even as he's become champion.
Well, also the other thing with him is, I don't mean to interrupt you, but to me the most impressive fight of his career isn't those. It was the way he handled Francis Ngannou in the last fight. The way he basically never let Ngannou just load up and strike. He was so adept at working around and wearing him down on the feet and on the ground. To me, that fight showed that, look, this guy is not one-dimensional. This guy doesn't just do one thing. Look, Brock Lesnar is a big, powerful wrestler. He doesn't do much else. Cain Velasquez can't stay healthy. Junior Dos Santos is a really good striker, but he doesn't have this great wrestling background. Stipe is so well-rounded. He arguably may be the most well-rounded heavyweight champion since Randy Couture was UFC heavyweight champion, and Stipe is a much better striker than Randy ever was.
Yeah, much, much better. And in fact, not only that, but like you said, the way he did handle Francis Ngannou, who is also on the same card in the co-main event with Derek Lewis, thanks to the debacle with Max Holloway. Man, I'm so gutted for Brian Ortega. I know he's been waiting to get that call, but Francis Ngannou tonight, who is also up against Derek Lewis, the way he handled strategically, he got blasted with a right hand in round one, and he was able to keep his wits about himself and recover from it. And, he was able to pick Ngannou apart there for a while. So, it was a much different fight than what most people have seen.
Barring any potential super fight with Brock, if Stipe wins this fight with Cormier tonight, what is next for him? The guy feels like he's on top of the world. You see him in all these Modelo commercials on TV. The guy's basically the favorite son now in Cleveland because LeBron left town. It's one of those things where you look at a guy like Stipe and it seems like the world is in his hands and he can do anything right now.
Curtis Blades.
You think Blades is really ready?
He's the number 2 heavyweight in the world, and he's 10-1. And the guy just handled another fight here recently. Yeah, I think Curtis Blades is definitely next. I think he's got that great wrestling strategy. He may not be the striker Stipe is, but I think he's gritty. I think he's intelligent. And don't forget, there's also Alexander Volkov, who's coming up. He's 30-6 right now. Derek Lewis is even sitting at number 5 right now. I'm not really interested in anybody else past the number 5 position.
Right.
I still need to see a lot out of guys like, Marcin Tybura and Tai Tuivasa. I think that's how you say his name. And then there's, Alexei Olenek, who, sitting back at the 10 spot. I'm not really interested in anybody above the 5 slot when talking about Stipe right now. Derek Lewis beats Francis Ngannou. I probably bet he may call him out. He may call out Stipe. But then again,
he will. You know how Derek is.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I love that video of him with his friend in the death metal, and he starts crying. That was a beautiful video.
Before I get your picks for UFC 226 tonight, which is on pay-per-view, and of course Dizz, follow him at Talk MMA for all your MMA and UFC news. He's joining us on the Boardwalk Kinda Hotline on 97.3 ESPN. I wanted to ask you this question because you and I talk to a lot of guys on and off the record. We know a lot of these different fighters. We know a lot of former and current fighters. And when I talked to Stipe a couple days ago and I asked about LeBron leaving, and he wasn't spiteful, he wasn't angry, he was very understanding of why LeBron left. And I think one of the things with LeBron is kind of like a big picture question I have for you. There's a lot of people out there who don't understand why LeBron would go to LA, why he would do. But the guy told you it's about his family, it's about his business. He has different worldview than other people view him. And I think one of the problems is a lot of times, whether it's fans or the media, they don't try to understand the athlete for who they are. They try to put their own sensibilities on the athletes. And I think, as you and I both know, when we talk to athletes, they tell us a lot of things on and off the record, but we learn about them as people. And I think many times when it comes to understanding why athletes do what they do, whether it's a team that they pick or a fight that they sign or anything like that, that so many times I think society as a whole does not take the time to understand that these are still people, and they try to put their own sensibilities on them.
Okay, I'm glad you brought up LeBron. I really am, because I'm going to provide a little bit of clarity. When people read my tweets about LeBron, I come off hateful, but the thing is that I really don't like LeBron as a person. Okay, I think he's a nasty person off camera. There's been some things that I've heard through friends that have dealt with him, or people who have dealt with him indirectly or watched him and stood off to the side and thought that he was just a nasty individual. There's the wheelchair incident with the kid where he wheeled a kid out of his way at UFC 148. When he was a guest and didn't acknowledge any of the fans who, wanted to take pictures and stuff with him. Not tipping waitresses, whatever. I don't care. Whatever your stick is outside of your profession. My thing with LeBron is that these days it's all about mobility. Okay, you're not going to be working with the best producers in Hollywood by staying in Cleveland. Okay. Horrible ownership. It's not the best ownership. He was there for a total of 11 years in Cleveland.
Yep.
Won one championship. Okay, you won one championship in Cleveland, and I think it's an accomplishment enough that he won even one championship. Okay, Cleveland has been the focal point of the NBA whenever LeBron's there. They should be thankful that LeBron even gave them that kind of attention, gave them that kind of revenue for the city. LeBron had to do what LeBron had to do. LeBron had to go to a place that's going to elevate his own brand, and there is no brand in the NBA that elevates somebody else's brand other than the Lakers. Do you think Shaquille O'Neal would be the Shaquille O'Neal he is today if he had not finished his career as a Laker? Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, even James Worthy. I mean, these guys are household names. Kobe Bryant. I mean, these guys are household names. Even Nick Van Exel even took a boost in his brand by playing with the Lakers.
Hey, Nick Van Exel got a really nice shoe contract because he was in L.A. Let me tell you that much.
He did. Did he not? Did he not?
That was a sweet shoe deal he got in the 90s.
What would he have been able to do that anywhere else?
Oh, definitely not.
I mean, there was all kinds of and I love the Boston Celtics. I love Brad Stevens. I love these guys. I think Brad Stevens is one of the best coaches in the league. But to play like, we don't really want LeBron here. That's just kind of like the guy who can't land the hot chick saying, I'm not really interested in dating her anyway. And it's like, no, you weren't going to get her, and that's why you want to play it off like you didn't want her. I said, but that's whatever helps you move on. So being realistic. I mean, you go out to LA, he finishes his career there as a Laker. He elevates his brand even more, which is ridiculous because he's already the $1 billion NBA baby. And it was all about being elevatable. That's the word I was looking for. And that's what it was. Lakers putting him further over than he already is. So it's, good for LeBron. it was a smart move. If you've never seen the guy act, he really can act, and he's not bad. I mean, that's me saying something. That's me saying something positive about LeBron. I mean, he's really not that bad of an actor. I've seen him in a couple of movies where he's had a few lines, and I was like, he probably could pull this off. I don't know about putting him in any action movies anytime soon, but hey.
Well, maybe he could be better than OJ was. Who knows?
Well, hey, OJ's a damn good actor. He's been acting like he didn't kill Nicole Simpson for years, so he's been very consistent.
All right, my friend. Let's. I'm going to throw out some of these fights to you.
I had to take a stab at it. Sorry.
What's that?
I had to take a stab at that one.
It's all good. It's all good. Nah, I put it on a tee and you nailed it. So that's all good.
So good. All right.
All right. So let's UFC 226 is tonight. Let's hit some of these fights. I think Miocic is going to beat Cormier. I think that this is probably going to be like a third round TKO kind of thing. What do you think?
I think it's probably going to go to a decision for Miocic. I think that 40 extra pounds of weight, I think is gonna hold Cormier down. I don't think he's ready for it. He's not used to it. He's been fighting at light heavyweight for the last several years now. I just think that the extra weight is going to be a little bit of an issue. If he was to come in at 230 or 225, I think we'd be having a different conversation right now.
Yeah.
But we're talking 246. We're talking Rampage Jackson going from light heavyweight to
right.
I have to cut down to heavyweight.
Right.
So we're talking that kind of a situation here. Who knows what he ballooned up to before he even
before he started doing cardio, right?
Right. And California State Athletic Commission, who is crazy about how much people are weighing before they fight.
Yep.
They've got to be keeping an eye on that and saying, if he comes back to California, we really need to be monitoring his weight when they announce a fight for him here.
Yeah. All right, let's get a couple other one of these. Ngannou versus Lewis. Look, I think Lewis can win this fight. I think Ngannou is still raw. I think he's a powerful striker, but his all-around game isn't there, and I think Derek could really surprise people here.
I'm with you on that one. I like Derek Lewis in this fight. I think with the power, I think he knows what Francis Ngannou is bringing. I think Derek Lewis, even though he says some D-level things sometimes, I think he has at least a B+ level intelligence when it comes to fighting, and I think I think that will be the one up for him when it comes to fighting Francis Ngannou tonight. The next fight's the one that I'm very interested in. I like Paul Felder and Mike Perry a lot. I'm picking Paul Felder to win this fight, and I think because he's a more intelligent fighter than Mike Perry.
Yeah, I think Felder wins by decision though, because I think Perry's going to find a way to survive some of Felder's combos. But I'm also with you. I like Felder as well. Anthony Pettis, real quick, we got to get out of here in a couple minutes here, but Anthony Pettis versus Michael Chiesa. Look, I'm disappointed that Michael came in overweight. I think that's a very bad look by him, and I think Anthony's a little peeved about that. I think Anthony's going to find a way to win this fight.
I think, I think sadly enough, I think that even though Michael Chiesa is overweight, I think he may win. I think that his grappling ability is going to be. He's a high level grappler, and I think that he's going to out grapple Pettis because he knows that Pettis has a very weak grappling game. Always has had a weak grappling game. All his wins have mostly been because he's either subbed somebody in a flash submission or because he's been able to TKO them or outstrike them. I'd hate to think that Chiesa wants to win. My heart lies with Anthony Pettis in this one because I'm a Showtime guy. But I can, for some reason, I can see Michael Chiesa winning this tonight, even though he was overweight. Don't deserve it. Neither does he deserve the $400,000 that he should have took from Conor McGregor just for a scratch over his eye. Unbelievable.
Follow him on Twitter at Talk MMA. He is Dizz. He's our MMA insider, always ahead of the curve when it comes to the latest MMA and UFC news. My friend, appreciate your time on the Boardwalk Honda hotline today on 97.3 ESPN.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. Talk soon.